Configuring for demoing dynamic media. In this short demo of how to configure Adobe Experience Manager assets to use a demo dynamic media, I'll show you the various steps to make configuring a simple process. Also, take out any wait time that was involved in the process for this recording. I recommend budgeting about 20 minutes to make sure that the newly configured instance of AEM is fully working for dynamic media. It only takes actually a few minutes to enable and configure dynamic media, but it takes about 15 minutes to synchronize several files required on the local instance of AEM provided from dynamic media. The first thing to do is to rename the jar file and include -dynamic media _ scene 7 in the name, and then launch that jar file. Once you're in AEM, confirm that the run mode is dynamic media by going to Tools, Operations, Systems Overview, and check for under Instance, it says Run Modes Dynamic Media _ scene 7 is included in that description. Next, you need to actually configure a new cloud service to finally enable dynamic media. Go to Tools, Cloud Services, Dynamic Media Configurations. Select Global and click Create. Use the provided Shared Solution Consultant credentials to configure this dynamic media configuration. Also, it's important to make sure that the Publish Assets Immediately is configured before you click Save once you create this configuration. Once you do click Save, wait about 15 minutes for dynamic media to synchronize all the art files that it needs inside of AEM Assets. After your 15-minute wait, I'd like to add 3 image presets to be made available whenever I'm demoing content. Here's a quick movie that shows you how I'm going to add a few image presets, and that's all there is to configuring dynamic media for demoing dynamic media. Image presets are user-defined shortcuts to a set of instructions that tell the image server what kind of image, what size, what image file format, how much sharpening to apply to any image request to the source single master asset. The assumption here is the single master image assets are usually a high or large pixel count image that will need to be resized or downsampled for any web presentation. We'll pre-populate AEM Assets Dynamic Media with 3 simple image presets for demonstration purposes, since the default configuration does not provide any of these shortcuts. Go to Tools, Assets, and choose Image Presets. Click Create, name the first image preset Large, and make it 700 by 700 pixels, JPEG. Click Save. Create a new one, choose Create, name this image preset Category, and make this one 250 pixels by 250 pixels in size. Click Save. Create the third image preset, click Create, name this one Responsive, and make sure that for this one the width and height values are actually empty, null, and void. So there are no values in the width and height field. Click Save. You're now ready to begin to add some content to AEM Assets and Dynamic Media and begin to demo dynamic media. Preparing to demo and use dynamic media. To demonstrate or even use dynamic media means you need to appreciate where the actual image is coming from. In the case of dynamic media, any preview content or content in a viewer is actually coming from a cloud service and not the local AEM instance, with the exception of the small preview images used to populate the AEM Asset Picker interface. This means when you add an image to AEM Assets configured with dynamic media, that image, once uploaded into AEM Assets, is immediately sent off to the DM servers for processing and then published to the CDN, or Cache Delivery Network, and then finally referenced within AEM Assets. With the exception of the thumbnail images used in the Asset Picker, which are local images, preview content in AEM comes from the cloud service secure preview tool, and copy URLs or published content comes from the cached or CDN server. This is designed to make content, once fully processed, immediately available as a CDN served image asset. The This also means that depending on the amount of content, image files and how large these image files are in kilobytes and megabytes, how large the source video files are, can take some time to finish processing. Because of this required processing time, I'll usually start a demo with dynamic media assets already processed and available in the DAM. And during the demo, I'll add some new assets to demonstrate the end-to-end process. One way to see the various renditions or derivative images now available in AEM is to select any image you've already uploaded and navigate to the renditions list. You'll notice the original image referenced at the top of the list. Static renditions are created upon upload locally in AEM and are really used for navigation purposes, and can also be used in legacy image components. Then dynamic renditions, courtesy of any image preset in the AEM instance. Selecting a dynamic rendition uses the AEM web browser GUI to request it to be rendered at that moment from the cloud service. To prepare to demonstrate dynamic media for image assets, I'll create a new folder and add a few images into that folder and wait for the processing to complete. I'll do the same for video as well. Since video files are usually much larger in size than images, it's even more important to manage this pre-processing before a demo. For adding images, the steps are: create a new folder and then drag and drop a few files into that folder. For video, the process is this: create a new folder, select the folder and configure it to use the default adaptive video profile. Open that folder and then drag and drop a few video files into that folder. Wait for processing to complete. Check the results to confirm everything worked. For images, click on any image you added and notice that the Zoom viewer loads by default. You can zoom into the image, assuming it was a large pixel count image to begin with. Select renditions and notice dynamic media renditions are available and rendering. For video, navigate to the folder you added the videos into and click on any video thumbnail. It should launch the video viewer, allowing you to play the video. Configuring AEM Sites web page template to use dynamic media. AEM Sites comes with dynamic media components to easily consume dynamic media content in any AEM Sites web page. However, the reference websites are not pre-configured out of the box to use dynamic media. We need to first edit the reference website's page policy template to use a dynamic media or interactive media components. If you don't make this edit, you can't add any dynamic media content to the web page with drag and drop AEM components. To edit a template policy to allow for using dynamic media, choose Tools, General, Templates. Choose We Retail folder of templates. Choose Hero Page Template by clicking on the thumbnail. Mouse over the layout container and select the policy icon from the set of tools. From this list of allowed components, select the dynamic media component with a check to add its capabilities to this and any web page that uses this set of policies, which includes all of these components. Now you can add dynamic media via a dynamic media component to any web page that references these policies. Dynamic media does a fair amount of image processing and video processing to make the final usage, dragging a component onto a web page or referencing a plastic URL, an instant experience. For demo purposes, I like to pre-populate folders with images and process videos, and during a live demo, add a few images or videos into folders in addition to the ones already pre-made. Also, if you want to use dynamic media sites component, you need to configure the web page template policies to use the dynamic media component before you create a web page.